Hi, everybody. This is Lisa Haven, and I've got some interesting information that I think all of you need to be aware of. But our headline is this: CIA insider warns economic collapse will strike America in just a few months in 2015, question mark. Project Prophecy predicts it will be unavoidable and that the US will have a 25-year depression. Now, for those of you who are not aware, back in August of 2014, just a few months ago, Money Morning did an interview with Jim Rickards, who is a CIA financial threat and asymmetric warfare advisor. He actually helped put together this thing called Project Prophecy, which is something that in a way predicts future events, so to speak, or that the government put together that predicts things that will or can happen in the future. And it works through patterns and events and statistics and everything like that. But supposedly, this particular project is predicting an unavoidable, meaning no matter what we do, an unavoidable depression that could hit, he claims, in May 2015. Now, I'm not agreeing that this is going to happen. Please don't think that. What I like to do as a reporter is report to you what is going on in the world and then let time tell. But anything that pops out or says, hey, this is happening, I want you to know about it, which is my point. Now, I know this came back and was released late August, but I want to get it to you because of where we are economically speaking. We've gotten worse, not better. And on top of that, I never got to say it with you guys on my YouTube channel or on BIN, so I want to get it to the listeners. And second, many of you may not have heard this as of yet, and I want to also take it into future steps. Okay, what has he said and where are we at now? Now, Jim Rickards is also a lawyer, an investment banker, an economist, and he's got 30 years experience in capital markets. He's the senior managing director at Tangent Capital Partners, also a merchant bank based, that's a bank, excuse me, based out of New York. He is the senior managing director for market intelligence at Omnis Incorporated and many other things. He also advises the Department of Defense, the U.S. Intelligence Community, and major hedge funds on global. He also served as a facilitator of the first ever financial war games that was conducted by the Pentagon. And he wrote 2 books that I'm aware of. There might be more, but these are best-selling novels: Currency Wars, The Making of the Next Global Crisis, and Death of Money. Now, what I want to do is just play you a quick clip of the actual interview so you get a general idea. Here we go. Okay, here is the interview by Money Morning. Just a clip of it. I'm not going to play the whole thing.
My name is Steve Myers, and I want to thank you for taking part in this exclusive Money Morning interview with Jim Rickards, the financial threat and asymmetric warfare advisor for both the Pentagon and CIA. Recently, all 16 branches of our intelligence community have come together to release a shocking briefing that contained an alarming consensus. These agencies, that include the CIA, FBI, Army, and Navy, they've already begun to estimate the impact of the fall of the dollar as the global reserve currency, and our reign as the world's leading superpower being annihilated in a way equivalent to the end of the British Empire post-World War II. And the endgame could be a nightmarish scenario where the world falls into an extended period of global anarchy. Jim Rickards fears he and his colleagues' warnings are being ignored by our political leaders and the Federal Reserve, and we're on the verge of entering the darkest economic period in our nation's history, one that will ignite a 25-year Great Depression. Today, we're going to examine everything he's uncovered, because the bedlam could begin within the next 6 months, which is why every American should hear his warnings before it's too late. Jim Rickards, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Steve. Glad to be with you.
In the early 80s, you were a member of the team that helped negotiate an end to the Iran hostage crisis. In the late 90s, when it was discovered that the Wall Street firm Long-Term Capital Management was about to cause a total collapse of the financial markets, the Federal Reserve had to turn to you in order to stop this catastrophe from plunging America into a recession. And then, after 9/11, you were tasked by the CIA with investigating potential insider trading that took place prior to the terrorist attacks.
That's exactly right. The problem was the CIA didn't have any capital markets expertise, and why should they? Prior to the beginning of globalization, capital markets weren't really part of the battle space. So the CIA engaged in some outreach. They recruited certain people, myself included, to bring the Wall Street expertise to the agency. This led to something called Project Prophecy. So what the CIA said, well, if there's going to be another spectacular attack, using price signals to determine the actions of participants in the market, whether it be terrorists or strategic rivals of the United States. Could you spot it? Could you get the information, actually break up the plot, and save American lives?
This system you built with Project Prophecy actually predicted a terrorist attack that was thwarted in 2006.
On August 7, 2006, I got an email from my partner. She said, Jim, we got a bright red signal on American Airlines. So she said, looks like a possible terrorist attack. We documented that. I was up at 2 o'clock in the morning in my study watching CNN, and all of a sudden, MI5 and New Scotland Yard emerged to break up this terrorist attack. They were arresting suspects, removing files. So this showed that the system worked. It's not just good for predicting terrorist attacks, but also strategic attacks by rivals and enemies of the United States.
For years now.
All right, so there you have it. You kind of get the idea of what Project Prophecy is. All right, instead of playing the entire clip for you because it's about 45 minutes and I will leave it on my Before It's News post so you can check out the full clip, I forwarded to the part where he talks about us going into the 25-year Great Depression. So let me play that.
The trend goes from $2.41 to 41 cents to 3 cents. It's soon going to go negative. This is a signal of a complex system about to collapse.
This really speaks to what you wrote about in your new book, The Death of Money. The title strongly alludes to this. The hourglass is now empty. You warned we're about to fall into a 25-year Great Depression, that the stock market could plunge almost overnight 70%.
You know, when I use the phrase 25-year depression, it sounds a little extreme, but historically it's not. We had a 30-year depression in the United States from about 1870 to 1900. Economists actually call it the Long Depression. That was before the Great Depression. The Great Depression lasted from 1929 to 1940, so that was quite long. The U.S. is in a depression today.
All right, so there you have it. The U.S., first of all, is in a depression. He predicts that we could hit a 25-year Great Depression, and that's within 6 months. Ish, as they stated earlier. It's already shorter than that, and he had used May, I believe, or sometime in 2015 that could fluctuate, that their particular system is predicting this. We also heard them earlier talk about America's reign ending, a global nightmare leading to anarchy. And these are all things that he talks about in his book, and some of that in this interview. Like you heard some of the things that got spoken of. But these are crazy things on the forefront. We all know that a global anarchy is one of the end games from the elitists. We know that that's ultimately somewhere that they want to go. And we know that today as the New World Order. It's written on our money. It's written on our federal buildings. It's written all in children's cartoons and programs. This is something that is highly underway, and we will have our reign end here in America, biblically speaking even. But these are things even the elitists are preparing for. Now, let me go to the actual post. Here we are, put together by Money Morning. Here's the link. I'll also leave a link for you so you can see that. And here they say you want to remember this date because according to the top minds of the U.S. intelligence community, that is when the U.S. will enter the darkest economic period in our nation's history. How bad will it be? I don't know. Will it happen? I don't know. I, again, as a reporter, am not predicting this. I am telling you what others are predicting, or what, in this case, Project Prophecy is speculating or predicting. I don't know what's going to happen either way. Only time will tell that. But I find it interesting, and interesting enough to get out to you guys, especially with the state of our economy. And it mentions a 25-year Great Depression, which you just heard Jim Rickards talk about. And alarmingly, he and his colleagues believe the evidence they've uncovered proves this outcome is impossible or unavoidable. In an interview with Money Morning, the one that you just heard, and I will leave the full feed on my BIN post, the CIA's financial threat and asymmetric warfare advisor has stepped forward to warn American people that time is running out to prepare for this $100 trillion meltdown. Everybody knows we have dangerous levels of debt. I can take you to the debt clock. The debt is continually climbing. People are still losing jobs. And here's the thing. I can show you numbers that have been fudged. One of the numbers that is being fudged by the government is the misery index. That's one that I know of off the top of my head, but they are fudging things. Let's go on to some of the quotes of what he said. Everybody knows we have a dangerous level of debt. Everybody knows the Fed, which I cannot stand, recklessly prints trillions of dollars. Okay, these are obvious things, but all signs are now flashing bright red that our chickens are about to come home to roost. Yes, we cannot continue the way that we are. Everybody knows it. It's not a question of if it's going to happen, it's when. During the discussion, Rickard shares a series of dangerous signals he fears reveals an economy that will reach a supercritical state, and I'll show you some of those. Decades back, this unique warning sign was created for determining how close our country was to a social collapse. It simply adds the true inflation rate, not the fake one that we get, with the unemployment rate, the real unemployment rate. However, the Fed has repeatedly changed the way, see, here they are. The misery index has been calculated over the years, which Rickards believes is now being used to cover up the true scope of the problem, just like I said. And here's some of the index that shows some of the charts. And he goes on and he says, today you rarely hear the government talk about the index with the public, he says. The reason is they may not want you to know the truth. And the truth is this index has reached more dangerous levels than we saw prior to the Great Depression. If you actually go off the real numbers and not the numbers on the internet, because the ones on the internet have been, like he said, recalculated or reformed to a certain way. But this is a signal of a complex system that is about to collapse. Now, during that interview, he actually, and this is just kind of an overview of it, but he reveals 5 dangerous flashpoints that they monitor or that could unleash a catastrophe. And this is what he says: I expect the first phase will appear as nearly instantaneous. 70% of stock market crash from the outside, nobody will see it coming. Once it becomes clear that it's not a flash crash, it's a systematic meltdown in the economy itself, that's when that's when the gravity of the situation is going to sink in and there's going to be no digging out from it. He goes on, 100 trillion is conservative estimate for the damage. A lot can happen over 25 years as a country struggles to recover. Now, this just gets into some of his background information and how he was led to be part of Project Prophecy, which you saw in the video. Okay, this just gets into what Project Prophecy is and things that it has already predicted, which we kind of talked about that already as well. Now, Rickards now warns that the next attack is going to come from within, and he's not alone. He said recently a sensitive report contains the consensus view of all 16 branches of the U.S. Intelligence Committee surfaced. And that report is that project that he also spoke about in the video as well. But these are all things that are being predicted by the different branches of government, everybody from the CIA to the FBI to the Army to the military, different branches of the military anyway, and a complete annihilation of our superpower, a nightmare leading to global anarchy. And these are things that we need to be ready for. But the question that we ultimately need to ask ourselves is, what if what he's saying is actually true? That's the question that needs to be answered. What if he's right? We all know that we are unstable on the path that we are on. And if this man is advising the CIA and the Pentagon, then we need to say hello when things like this happen, and at least have a foreknowledge of it or a forewarning of it, so we can start to prepare ourselves in our homes if this ever happens to that extent. Anyhow, I wanted to get you guys this information and parts of it because I think it's very imperative to know. And if we take into consideration some of the things on the forefront now, we could see a depression in our near future. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't be skeptical about it, because obviously maybe this won't happen at all, which is also another possibility. But either way, and that's my hope, and that's my prayer, that we sit beautiful for a while, but at some point is going to break. When is the actual question? But all you got to do is look in the news and you can see how bad the economy is and all the riots and things that are taking place all across the world. It's not a pretty picture. Anyhow, just wanted to bring you guys that. This is Lisa Haven signing off.